Oh my god, hey! Welcome back to my Stagey YouTube channel. If you are seeing my face for the first time, hello! My name is Mickey Joe and I am obsessed with all things theatre. And this is my Stagey YouTube channel, where I review the shows that I have been invited to go and see here in the UK, and I talk about the theatre industry worldwide. Sometimes news, sometimes gossip, sometimes drama. If those sound like the kind of videos that you might be interested in seeing more of here on YouTube, make sure that you are subscribed to my Stagey YouTube channel. Now today, I have something a little bit different for you, because I'm not going to be talking to you about a show per se. I'm going to be talking to you about an evening I spent in London because I finally went to go and have a meal at the THEATRE CAFÉ DINER. Now, for those who don't know, the Theatre Cafe has become a staple of the West End. It popped up around 10 years ago, I want to say, just under 10 years ago. It was first on Shaftesbury Avenue, not too far from the Sondheim Theatre, which was then called the Queen's Theatre, where Les Miserables is playing and has been playing for a very long time. A few years later, the cafe moved to a larger premises on St Martin's Lane, which is another very theatrical road here in London. It is now the neighbour of the Duke of York's Theatre and the Noel Coward Theatre, where Dear Evan Hansen was recently playing, as well as the London Coliseum, which often houses a lot of Broadway transfers, such as the recent revival of My Fair Lady. And the Theatre Cafe is this amazing stagey spot filled with so many great photo locations and so many theatre-themed things and snacks and beverages, and they've started doing more and more food and hosting events and having open mic nights and all of the stagey things. It's this amazing little hub for theatre fans to go to before or between shows or even after shows, because they've started opening later and serving alcoholic beverages post-lockdown. But it has been the ambition of the cafe for some time to open a fully fledged Theatre Cafe Diner. Now this actually comes from Broadway, because New York has a bit of a history with iconic theatre-themed diners. And I'm not talking about the Moondance Diner, where Jonathan Larson famously worked, which was paid tribute to in Tick, Tick, Boom. I am talking about Ellen's Stardust Diner. So this is a New York institution where tourists and theatre fans and locals, if they want to, can go and enjoy a meal, while the waiting staff, the waiters and the waitresses at the restaurant, will also take turns to sing. Now, I have never visited New York, but I'm hoping to go for the first time in 2023, and I will be straight to Ellen's Stardust Diner. Let me tell you, I've heard such fun things. I've seen videos, my friends have told me about it, and I think the great thing about it is not only is it live performances from your waiters and waitresses, but they do really fun and whimsical things. My friend always talks about the time that her mother was made to stand on a table while a waiter serenaded her with the music of the night, and all sorts of stuff like that. So I was really excited when the Theatre Cafe finally announced that they would be opening the Theatre Cafe Diner. And for their new address, they have returned to their roots on Shaftesbury Avenue, but a different part of Shaftesbury Avenue. They are now the other side of the Palace Theatre, and they're sort of between the Palace Theatre, where Harry Potter and the Cursed Child is now playing, and the Shaftesbury Theatre, where Anne Juliet is currently playing, soon to be the home of Doubtfire the Musical. If, like me, your West End geography is also based entirely around theatres, then they're very near the Cambridge Theatre where Matilda is playing, and the Donmar Warehouse. So I was incredibly lucky to be invited, along with my boyfriend Aaron, to go to the exclusive press preview of the Theatre Cafe Diner when it opened last month. But because we had to leave for another event, I didn't get the chance to have the full experience. And also, this was before they'd even opened to the public. So this was a bit overwhelming, I think, when they were trying to do all of the food and all of the performances and have all of these press people in. So I was very much looking forward to coming back when they had got into their groove, so I could really see what it was going to be like and what a normal experience for the average attendee was going to be like. So this past week, I went back to the Theatre Cafe Diner, and now I am finally ready to tell you what the experience is like. We're going to talk about food, we're going to talk about performances, we're going to talk about vibes and aesthetic, and we're going to talk about prices and logistics and everything else you need to know practically about a restaurant experience as well. Hopefully I will answer all of your questions in this video, but if I don't, feel free to drop them in the comments section down below, and if I do not have an answer for you straight away, I will do my best to get one. Also, if you enjoyed today's video and you find it useful, make sure that A, you've subscribed to my Stagey YouTube channel, B, you have gone to find me on other social media platforms. I am on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on TikTok, and I'm at Mickey Joe Theatre. Now let's talk about the Theatre Cafe Diner. We are here this evening at the Theatre Cafe Diner, which has recently opened here in London. We've been here before for the press launch, but tonight we are here to have the full experience and take you inside with us and show you what it is like. You can literally hear Six being belted by one of the wait staff as you stand outside. How is that for ambience from the street? So the first thing I want to talk about is the facade. It's on this stretch of Shaftesbury Avenue, not too far from the old disused Odeon and not too far from shops like Forbidden Planet. It's a slightly more bleak stretch of road. It's not competing with a lot of other flashy storefronts in some of the other areas of London, and I think that's to its advantage. It still gets a decent amount of footfall, but you cannot miss the signage of the Theatre Cafe Diner. They have these bright flashing lights. They have all of the show posters around the exterior. I think it looks fantastic. I think it grabs people. Because you have the performances happening inside, people will stop on the street and look in, but you also have slightly tinted windows, so you don't feel completely on display. I've had that in a London restaurant before, where I've sat in the window and evidently my food looked fantastic because tourists would just stop and stare at what I was eating, which can be slightly overwhelming. But we're going to go inside. We're going to show you what it's like inside the Theatre Cafe Diner. We're going to show you food, menus, scenery, all sorts of scenery. What's the word when it's in a house? Furniture. I'm too stagey. This is the problem. I'm like, scenery. A decor, yeah, any of these words would do. We're going to show you what it's like in the Theatre Diner. Come with us. Come. Once you go inside the Theatre Cafe Diner to the little pedestal where you can wait to be seated, you immediately see how amazing the interior is. So let's talk about these decorations. It is just so vibrant inside. You have all these different sections. You have a giant Shrek S immediately to your right with kind of like leaves over the top because it's meant to be like this Shrek swamp section, which is super cute. To your left, you have these higher chairs with a little bar along the window. That's probably a great place to sit if you're there by yourself, and power to you if you're going to the Theatre Cafe Diner by yourself. I would, and I probably will. All those chairs have kinky boots on the back, which is great fun. There's an Andrew Lloyd Webber section, there's a Frozen section, there's so many different shows represented in the Theatre Cafe Diner, and even more downstairs, because on the downstairs level, you have specific booths that can be booked out, themed to Heathers and Six. There's also a Dear Evan Hansen section in the downstairs corner, and there's even a mischief table where you have a lot of restaurant gone wrong style things. I have friends who actually sat at that table for the press preview and they weren't immediately sure why they had this stuff on their table. I got it straight away and thought it was hilarious. But it's possible that one might be an acquired taste. So as well as old costumes from other West End musicals, you have these amazing pictures across the walls and you have these bright signs. There's a lot of great photo locations. And what's really fun is you have these cardboard cutouts of different West End stars. So the last time we were sat very near to Zizi Strallen as Mary Poppins, and you have cast members from Moulin Rouge and Mamma Mia and Back to the Future. Downstairs there's also a mirrored wall with the Back to the Future characters with their faces cut out so you can try and take a cute selfie there. There's just a lot of representation for whatever your favourite musical might be. So let's talk a bit more about layout. I've talked about this kind of like in the window seating to one side. On the other side, tucked between the bar and the window, you have the Shrek section, that's hard to say. Shrection, if you will. Then you have your main seating area for groups of various different sizes and a raised section, but it is an accessible raised section. You can get up a ramp on the one side by Elsa and the Let It Go LED lighting to get up to that raised section, so that's completely accessible, which is fantastic. I don't believe the downstairs is accessible because I didn't see a lift, but that was not something that I needed to inquire about on my visit. But if you're a wheelchair user, as far as I currently understand, you will not be able to access the downstairs, which has the Six and Heathers themed booths. Though for what it's worth, I don't know if they always utilise the downstairs space, because on that first press preview, everywhere was completely full, and then when I returned more recently, it wasn't really a peak time, nor was it the most popular day of the week, but the downstairs section wasn't currently being used. As well as that raised upper section, because this is theatre themed, you have a royal box. That's up another small set of stairs. I don't think that has an accessible route into it, but it's possible I'm misremembering that one. And that's its own little table up there with a little red velvet curtain that I think can be pulled all the way across if you want utter privacy in your royal box for your dining experience, or it's just there for show and you're not meant to move the curtain. I've not sat there yet, so I'm not entirely sure, but maybe when I go back, I'll sit in the royal box, because why not? But wherever you are in the diner, you're going to get a great view of the performances, and that's what I want to talk about next.
Hey, Mr. Archie, here I am.
So the whole novelty of this experience is that while you are eating, they are playing musical theatre songs on a playlist, and some really niche musical theatre songs getting played as well. One thing that occasionally used to annoy me about the Theatre Cafe, especially when the songs could be controlled by whoever was there, is that you would hear a lot of the same things. You would hear a lot of Hamilton and Jamie and Six. So I appreciate that the playlist at the Theatre Cafe Diner was giving you a nice little bit of variety, because we all like different things when it comes to musical theatre. And there's so many different shows to choose from, we don't have to pick the same few shows. But every few songs, what will happen is one of the waiters or waitresses who is on that shift will take a turn to sing a song, and they will move around the restaurant, so they will come past you, they'll be in the middle, they'll come down this little walkway that goes from the raised section down to the main section. When the downstairs area is open, they go between floors as well. So you could call it an immersive experience, because there's this live musical theatre performance that's happening all around you. Having been twice, I've heard so many of the staff sing. They are all phenomenally talented. I appreciate that we have some different vocal types represented, and some really great and really interesting song choices as well. Some things were starting and I was thinking, oh, yay for you choosing that song. I'm going to talk a little bit more about some notes and feedback I have for some of the choices. That's going to come in a later section with some of my constructive comments. One thing I'll highlight is my favourite musical performance that happened at our most recent visit was because someone had actually requested a song. One of the members of a party there had requested Close Every Door from Joseph, and the waitress said this is not something she'd ever sung before, but she grew up listening to this song, so she knew it, but it was a male backing track. So she gave this hilarious performance where she was inviting everyone to sing along with the little children's chorus sections, and she was alternating between the two octaves because it didn't sit comfortably in a female key. But even though that was like not this very polished performance, that's my favourite thing that has ever happened at the Theatre Cafe Diner, because it was just joyous and it included you and it felt like this lovely musical theatre family moment. Now let's talk about the food, because it's all well and good having this amazing looking place while people are singing, but we got that from the Theatre Cafe. The real difference here has to be the meal that you can get at the Theatre Cafe Diner. And it's the kind of food that you would expect. I'm going to put some video here of the menu so that you can pause this and look at the prices. You have starters, you have mains, you have desserts, and you have side options as well. You have a very extensive drinks list with everything that you could expect on there. You have a lovely cocktail menu with some cocktails with some fantastic musical theatre pun titles. I believe I had the Bend and Schnapps, which was delicious, and I ordered simply because it was my favourite pun on the menu. Aaron, I believe, had the Madame Midori Balls Sour, which apparently delicious, although to my mind, not as strong a pun. For the starters, you have 4 different options. There is Quesadilla, Tell Me What's Wrong, which is a vegan option. Whistle Down the Wings, which is buffalo style or barbecue style chicken wings. Look at Me, I'm Mac and Cheese, which is a vegetarian option. And Show Me the Meaning of Being Loaded. Loaded potato skins with gluten-free option available. At our most recent visit, Erin had the potato skins and I had the Whistle Down the Wings. Again, picked because that was my favourite pun. And I will say, I got an awful lot of chicken wings and an awful lot of sauce. He had like a reasonable amount, like a normal amount you would expect for a starter course. I had so much chicken wings. It could definitely be a sharer amount, the amount of chicken wings I had. And maybe that may vary because they're still opening and they're still getting used to their different portion sizes. But at least at the moment, let me know if you go and order the chicken wings whether you get an enormous quantity, because I love chicken and I was there for a while. I do appreciate them having vegetarian, vegan and gluten-free options. So Aaron can only have gluten-free stuff because he's wheat intolerant, and it's great to see representation for that in the starters as well as in the mains. You don't get that at every restaurant, and so that's really great knowing that we can go there and he has a good number of options. For the main courses, there is Frank You for the Music, a Frankenfurter in a roll with bacon, cheddar and caramelized onions. Why they didn't go for a Frankenfurter pun from Rocky Horror, I don't know, but maybe it's too easy. I mean, it already is a pun, so maybe it was challenging. I'm sure they workshopped it. There's I'm Not That Dog, a vegan sausage in a roll with relish. This is like genius. Calling it I'm Not That Dog because it's a non-meat hot dog, like that's just brilliant. I can't fault that. An Aaron burger, a beef patty served in a burger bun with lettuce, tomato, pickles and diced onion with an optional melted cheese slice. And this is also GFO, meaning a gluten-free option is available. And then the She's Got Nothing to Do With It, I'm the One You Want, It's Meat, where a gluten-free option is also available. This is a double beef patty with cheese and bacon served in a burger bun with crispy onion rings, lettuce, tomato, pickles, and diced onion. Now this is what Aaron and I both had on our most recent visit. We both had the double beef burger, and because I had so much chicken, this was just a lot of food. I was slightly overwhelmed with how much food I actually had. Because it is a lot, it is an awful lot. Now, Aaron obviously had the GFO version of this, the gluten-free option, and he had a different bun. That's where the wheat comes into this dish. And he also didn't have the crispy onion rings in his version. But both of them came with fries, and it is a really formidable burger. It's the kind of burger that you can't eat gracefully. And I'll say that this burger tasted fine, it tasted nice, it tasted like a beef burger that you might cook at home. I've had nicer gourmet beef burgers in various restaurants where it's a specific burger place, but I was never expecting to go to the Theatre Cafe Diner and for its food to be like fine dining, or for it to be one of the best burgers in town. It is more about the novelty of the experience and the way that everything is titled and the surroundings and the performances. But if you're here for a food review, you can get a better burger at Five Guys, at Byron, at Shake Shack, or at Honest Burger. There's also the La Vegan Bohème. I don't like the way that scans, but it's a clever title. This is a vegan patty in a burger bun with vegetables, and an optional vegan cheese slice, if you want to take your life into your own hands. The Shuffle Off to Buffalo Chicken Burger, a crispy cornflake-crusted chicken with buffalo sauce in a burger bun with lettuce, tomato, and mayo. And the All or Nothing Cluckin', an Oklahoma reference. This is a vegan version, a plant-based chicken patty in a burger bun with lettuce, tomato, and vegan mayo. Next time I'm back at the Theatre Cafe Diner, I will definitely be trying the chicken burger as a main course. But having looked through all of the mains, I feel like that's everything you would expect at a diner. The Theatre Cafe already serves pizza, so this is more of a hot dog and burger kind of a vibe. Would I like for them to expand this menu and include a few more options? Definitely, but I think that's probably something that will come with time. Let them find their feet first, having opened a functioning, all singing, all dancing restaurant to begin with. The sides currently listed online are the Dancing Through fries, plain fries, sweet potato fries, or cheesy fries, and the Annie Get Your Gunnion rings, which are battered onion rings. Now let's talk about the desserts. The dessert options listed on the menu are Piscilla, Queen of the Dessert. How you're going to have a theatre-themed pie and it not be a waitress option is going to make a lot of people mad, but I don't hate this pun. The Sing Out Le Cheesecake. This one feels like a stretch to me, especially because it should be L-O-U, like Lou Cheese. It just looks like Sing Out Low Cheese. It just looks like a slightly weird hymn title, like it's going to be Sing Out Low Cheese, Low Sweet Chariot, coming forth to bring me dessert. The Some Enchanted Vegan. A nice pun, but it does not specify what it actually is. Or the Bruce Bogtrotter's Chocolate Cake. Now, I have a little bit of beef with some of the desserts, and beef does not go well with a dessert. And this is because I'm very much into dessert, and I like to know what I'm going to get with a dessert because I have an enormous sweet tooth. But I also have a little bit of a complex relationship with food, and it just eases my mind to know broadly what I am going to get in a dish. And the mains and the starters are really great for that. And for some reason on the dessert section of the menu, they're just not very forthcoming with what you actually get with each thing. At the worst, this is a pie and a cheesecake where they literally don't tell you what the flavors are because that could be any number of things. I'm assuming it's like a traditional vanilla cheesecake with some sort of fruit coulis or something because that's normally what you would get for a cheesecake on a standard restaurant menu, but it could be any other slice of cheesecake. There's a lot of cheesecake flavors that this could be. Same with the pie. Is this an apple pie? I have a fruit allergy, and I would like to know ahead of time what kind of pie we're talking about here. I ended up going for the Bruce Bogtrotter's Chocolate Cake because we'd recently been to see the film version of Matilda, so I finally got my chocolate cake moment. But again, I would have liked to have known the amount of cream and ice cream and whatever else this was going to come with beforehand. Now, if I can talk briefly about the drinks menu I mentioned before, I enjoy all of the cocktails here, I really do. Everyone I've had so far is very nice. The wine is very nice as well. They have a lot of great soft drinks and hot drinks. One thing I feel like they're missing is milkshakes, and they serve milkshakes at the Theatre Cafe, but for that whole diner experience, I would still expect for them to serve milkshakes at the Theatre Cafe Diner, especially because Aaron couldn't have any of the dessert options because none of the desserts are listed as gluten-free or with a gluten-free option being available. So he was going to have a milkshake instead. Lo and behold, they don't have milkshakes. So he had a glass of wine while I had a dessert. In a perfect world, there really ought to be a gluten-free dessert option, but as an alternative, a milkshake would also be nice, just so you can have that kind of a sweet palate cleanser after your main course, especially when some of them have an awful lot of sauce and leave a very strong flavour. Looking at you, whistle down the wings. Do you know what you're going to have?
I think I'm going to have to show me the meaning of being loaded.
You're going to have to show me the meaning of being loaded. I kind of want the whistle down the wings just because the pun is so good. I don't like a chicken wing usually. I'm a chicken tender person, but I like whistle down the wings as a pun so much I want to reward it with my custom. Something else we need to talk about for the Theatre Cafe Diner experience is toilets. So the main toilets are downstairs. These are unisex toilets, and I do just love the way that these have been themed. You have these gorgeous full pictures on the outsides of the toilet doors of actors applying makeup and getting ready. These have been taken by Danny with a camera. There is a lot of Danny's brilliant work featured in the Theatre Cafe Diner, just like there was in the Theatre Cafe. He has a little dedicated section in the stairwell where it features not only Danny's pictures, but also those that he has curated of a lot of other up-and-coming theatre photographers. And that's amazing that we are showcasing all of this phenomenal photography talent. He also has his own little cutout drawing of him stuck on the wall, which I am sure he hates. But going back to the toilets, the most whimsical thing about these toilets is that on the inside of the toilet doors, you have a picture of people in an auditorium applauding you as though you are on the stage when you are sat on the toilet. And if that's not, you know, support and reassurance, I don't know what is. But they're actually very aesthetic. The toilet area downstairs, you have this lovely mirror, you have this lovely basin. And what's great is there is also an accessible unisex toilet upstairs. This has a lovely picture of Carrie Hope Fletcher on the front, and obviously it's very important that we have accessible toilets in the Theatre Cafe Diner as well. So I mentioned before that I had a little bit of constructive feedback for the venue, and so much of what I was going to say has improved a lot since that first press preview. I think they've bitten off an awful lot here, and they're doing really well. I think it's a huge undertaking, and you know, in the theatre industry we know a lot about putting on a show, but having a fully functioning restaurant alongside that is a challenge completely of its own. I've spoken a little bit about the menu, how we could maybe diversify. I would like a gluten-free dessert option. Some of the portion sizes are a little bit disparate. I also want to talk about the prices. Now, when these prices first emerged online, there was a sizable reaction, and I do think they are a little bit in flux. I think initially, where they were charging sides separately, they're now incorporated into the main price, which is good, which is a positive thing. I think you also have to be mindful of the fact that you are getting a live performance and you are getting that added layer of experience. If you go to a themed cocktail bar, you're going to pay more for those same cocktails than you would for a comparable drink in a non-themed bar. That's just a reality of those kind of venues. Also, I'm an annual pass holder at Disneyland Paris. Fun fact, now you know. But similarly there, you're going to pay more for like a character dining experience because you're getting an added level of entertainment from your seat. You have to consider these prices as not only paying for the food, but for the full experience and for the performances that you get at the same time. There are an awful lot of performances. They are giving you value for money. Now let's talk about the performances. I really enjoy seeing these rising stars, these future talents of the West End. They have phenomenal voices. I feel like they could afford to dial back the energy of some of it just a little bit. And I feel like the songs could afford to be a little bit more whimsical. I want more like what I have heard described as the Ellen Stardust Diner experience, where we're having fun with these songs and we're not taking it always completely 100% seriously. And variety is great. You can have a funnier number and a more charactery number and then something a little bit more serious, but I do think there are some songs that just don't work at all in this setting. And this is not to discredit anyone who performed these songs on the times that I visited, because they gave beautiful and wonderful vocal performances. They're fantastically talented. But something like Heart of Stone from Six that's quite steady and quite drawn out and quite somber, it's just not uplifting at 5:30 when you're having a burger. It's a weird vibe. A lot of those songs would work better for karaoke or for an industry showcase, and that's not what this is. This is a fun dining experience. On the first night I was there, everyone was pulling out the big numbers. We had I Say No, and we had Santa Fe, and we had Let It Go, and we had songs from Six. And my favourite thing that anyone sang was I Can Cook Too from On the Town. It's a little jazzy, up-tempo character number. And it was really fun. It was just a nice little fun alternative. And I thought, there's a song that really works with this vibe. So I think a little bit more time could be spent with the performers, just curating a sort of a better style of song for that setting. Something that's more fun and uplifting. I think comedy is great. I think involving the people in the diner is great. Audience participation is great. Where they can interact with each other and do fun duets. They did Let Me Be Your Star from Smash. I loved that. I was like, yay for Smash getting included.
Someday she'll think twice of the booze and the price she'll have to pay. But not today.
And And you can do a ballad and you can do something more down-tempo. Somebody sang Hopelessly Devoted to You, and because that's very well known and because it's still quite sweet, it's not quite as heavy and that can still work. But I think the best songs will be the up-tempo ones, the ones with more of a driving energy. And I would also like to see a little bit more representation of classic musicals, because when we were there was an awful lot of contemporary stuff and some really big belty stuff, and they are quite close to you. So I think we should maybe rein in a little bit of the bigger belty stuff. And there were some older groups there as well, and I think they probably would have appreciated some of the classics. One of the waitresses sang The Sound of Music from The Sound of Music, and I think that was really appreciated because it was a nice alternative to a lot of the other more contemporary stuff.
To laugh like a brook as it trips and falls over stones on its way.
Another concern I initially had was about timing. Now, on that first press preview, this was a little bit more of a challenge, but having gone back, we had 3 courses and drinks served to us within an hour. Within an hour and 10 minutes, I think, of when we had arrived, we were ready to leave. So having got there at 5:30, which you have plenty of time after your matinee, wherever it is, to make it to the Theatre Cafe Diner for a 5:30 booking, it's then going to let you out with plenty of time to get to your evening show. So if anyone was concerned about fitting this in a 2-show day, I can tell you that it works really well. And that's always a concern I have and why I tend to avoid sit-down meals between shows, but now knowing that they have such a quick turnaround, I wouldn't even have to necessarily get 3 courses all the time or stay quite as long as we did after we'd finished. It's great to know that the Theatre Cafe Diner experience is compatible with that kind of a show schedule. And that is everything I can tell you about the Theatre Cafe Diner. Like I said, if you have any questions that weren't addressed in this video, let me know in the comments section down below. I will do my best to get you some answers. But what I would encourage you to do is to go online and book a table at the Theatre Cafe Diner so you can go down and try it for yourself. If you've already been to the Theatre Cafe Diner, let us know what your experience there was like. What did you eat? Did you have something different to what I had? How was that? How does your experience compare with mine? Because it's all still adapting and changing, and I dare say there's probably been changes even since I went most recently. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to subscribe to my Stagey YouTube channel for lots more helpful content just like this. Also, you can go find me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Mickey Jo Theatre. And if you really enjoyed today's video, you can use the super thanks button down below to donate and give me a Stagey tip. That very much helps me to make all of this content as regularly as I do. You can also go to patreon.com/Mickey Jo Theatre to gain access to some exclusive photo and video content. I hope that everyone is staying safe and that you have a stagey day. For 10 more seconds, I'm Mickey Jo Theatre. Oh my god, hey. Thanks for watching, have a stagey day. Subscribe!